I'll talk today about City SDK, City Service Development Kit, which is a European project which aims to make it easier for developers to access all sorts of different open data sets. For example, if you want to create an app or a website using open data that works in, let's say, Amsterdam, City SDK tries to provide ways that it also works in other cities in the same way. So if you need, for example, departure times of buses and trams, you could now access the data in Istanbul, in Helsinki, in Manchester, and in Amsterdam in the same way. That's the aim of the project. This is, well, our office in Amsterdam. Anyway, City SDK is about movable code. Like I said, it's usually lots of hard work if you're a developer and you want to create apps and you have to start all over again in every city where you want to roll out your app. City SDK tries to create one interface for now 8 European cities and later maybe more. And the aim of the project is not only to create software which makes that easier, but also to go to those cities and talk to the governments and the municipalities and to help them with opening up more data sets. And in the end, the goal of the project is to create smarter citizens and smarter cities and easier access to open data sets. For example, this is an open data portal of the municipality of Amsterdam. They have lots of open data sets, which is good news. There's real-time traffic information, there's departure times of buses, there's data sets where you can park your car, there's data sets about where you can charge your electric car if you would have one, or your electric bike. But all those data sets are in different formats. For example, this is an XML file. This is some Excel file, so you first need to buy Excel from Microsoft only before you can open it. This is some shapefile, geographic file format with all the bike trails in Amsterdam. So the problem is that there is, well, first of all, it's a good thing that there's lots of open data, much more so than 10 years ago. Maybe 10 years ago there was nothing, and now more and more cities, also Istanbul, in the city of Istanbul is in the project as well, are opening up so many more data sets than they did previously. But the problem is that usually it's really difficult to access. It might be incomplete, it might be old, and it's also really difficult to find out when somebody updated it for the last time. I'm sure you've all heard of Tim Berners-Lee, the inventor of the World Wide Web. After that became quite a success, he focused on the semantic web. And the semantic web is not only creating links between pages of text, but it tries to add meaning to data. So every link and every piece of data on the internet, semantics are added to that. So every value, every number, every string is annotated with meaning. And Tim Berners-Lee says, if you do the effort of putting your data set online, I'll give you 1 star for the data. If you then also put it in a structured file format, like for example an Excel file, you get 2 stars. If you then use a non-proprietary format like XML or CSV, Tim gives you 3 stars. But that's where it usually stops. And City SDK tries to make it easier to reach those 2 last steps, which is also link datasets together, so that there's not one separate dataset here and another separate dataset there, but that links are created between those datasets. Anyway, this is the central train station in Amsterdam. If you go look for data available about the train station, you might find DBP there with lots of information about the building, when it was constructed. You find the Dutch railway company with the actual departure times of the train station. We also have trams and buses. There's a website telling you when buses and trams leave. You might want to know some crowdsourced information, for example Foursquare, or you might want to know if you're arriving in Amsterdam what kind of weather it is. But all those data sets, some are open, some are not, are in different sources. So you always have to go to all those sources and combine those data sets together, which is lots of work. So City SDK. This is the way City SDK sees a city, or a town. Anyway, there's 2 buildings and a boat. The way it currently is, there's this town and there's layers of data about this town. but they're not linked together. So CDK tries to create those links between those data sets by, I have a pointer somewhere, I think, yes. So CDK identifies separate objects in a city, a building, a park, and a bus stop, and it gives each of those objects a unique identifier. And then it links those data sets which have data about those objects to this unique identifier. So if you would want information about this park, you would need to know the identifier of this park, and then you can find information about the park in those three different data sets. So this is the nerdy underlying structure. So those are objects with a spatial component and a unique identifier. And then beautiful colors, and there's one unified API which combines all those data sets together and provides a simple REST API in JSON for developers to access. So you don't have to go through all different sorts of difficult open data portals and different XML files, some really big, but you have one API which only gives you the information you need. So what do? We import lots of data sets, some real-time, some static. We combine them, we link them together, and we provide JSON and also RDF, semantic web turtle output, which I'll show you later. And not only can you read data, but if you would have some extra information about an object, you can also write to the system. For example, if you know a bus station or a bus stop is broken, maybe the glass is broken, and you have the identifier of that object, you can write data to the system saying, well, I have information about this object, and this is more up to date, or this is new information that previously was not available. This is real boring JSON output showing public transport lines in Amsterdam. This is even more boring RDF output, but I'll have some map examples. This is the map viewer which shows CDSTK data on a map. This is all the public transport stops in Manchester, but this also works in Istanbul. So you have one API and you can ask the system, give me all the public transport stops or all the museums in a certain area, and CDSTK will return the data you need. So this is public transport stops in Manchester. This is tram lines and bus lines in Manchester. This is using the same API call, bus stops in Amsterdam. And also we try to create links between different data sets. For example, we use OpenStreetMap as an underlying database, and we link, these are museums in Amsterdam, and we link real-time events to those objects. So if you want to know where movies are or where theater plays are, we have one API with real-time events, which we import, and we link that to the data already in the system. What is this? This is train stations in Amsterdam. We also created a content management system. If you have data sets, or if you are a data owner, or you work for the government and you have some existing data sets, you can use our CMS to upload your data and import it into CDSTK. And then it's exposed using the same API. This is one example. This last spring, the rivers in the Netherlands, the water levels rised, and it was threatening the Netherlands. It was a newspaper article, and I also found that there was an API telling for many different locations in the Netherlands how high the water was. But this is quite a complicated website, and the API is even more difficult. So what I did then is I imported this API into CDSTK, so that you can access water level information in the same way as you can access where buses are leaving and where movies are playing, all using this very single API. We also are adding semantics so that you know what the numbers mean. For example, if you want to know how high the rivers are, you don't want a number just, but you also want to know if it's in millimeters or centimeters. And CDSTK also provide ways for data owners to tell CDSTK exactly which numbers mean what. And it's working in many different cities already in Europe. We have an API in Amsterdam, in Greece, in Istanbul here, also in Manchester and Helsinki. This is Istanbul. And this is public transport stops in Istanbul, I believe. Of course, only a subset of it, because I won't show all the information. This is another project I did using the data inside the system. I think I have a video. So there's a, does it play? Yes. There's a database in the Netherlands with all the buildings and all the addresses. Also really difficult to access. I've imported that into CDSTK. And I'm exposing all this really difficult to access data via our simple to use CDSTK API. And I've created this map of all the buildings, and the color is the age of the building. So the more red, the older the buildings are. This is a city of Haarlem. And if you click on a building, it gets the address and the postcode and the year of construction out of CDSTK. So the power of this is that you don't need to first download a 10 gigabyte file from the government of the Netherlands, but you can only access the very addresses and the very buildings you need using our API. I think we zoom now to another town. So if you want some addresses or some buildings in one particular area, you can use CDSTK to get that data. And this goes on for a little while. This is another example of what you can do with CDSTK. A colleague of mine made a 3D, a browser 3D website which shows all the real-time public transport information which is available in CDSTK. So this is all public transport lines in Amsterdam and all the bus stops and tram stops. And I think we'll now move to Helsinki. Using the same calls, you can get all the information you need in the browser with JavaScript if you want to. And I think now we go to Turkey. There we are. And not only do we know, does CDSTK know where the bus stops and the bus lines are, but also the departure times, real time, of all the buses and trams. So this is the whole country of the Netherlands. Real-time loading from the CDSTK API. And now I hope we will, there's real-time traffic speeds on certain roads in Amsterdam. So CDSTK is also fitted for real-time dynamic data. And these are trams and buses on the position they are right now, with the real-time delay if they have one. And you can see them moving, but they're really slow, so you don't maybe... they move, yes. Another sample map of buildings in the Netherlands. And some monuments and more map examples. Well, a summary of the data available now using CDSTK. We have OpenStreetMap, public transport information, real-time and static, so schedules and where the bus stops are, addresses and buildings, where you can park your car, where you can charge your electric vehicle, and much more. In Amsterdam we have the most data. In Istanbul we're just starting to fill the system with open data sets. So the power of CDSTK is that you can access all those different data sets via one very easy to understand system. Some technical details. And I don't think I filled 3/4 of an hour, but I think this was my last slide. So thanks so much. Oh, by the way, the reason I'm here in Istanbul is because Istanbul is also in the project, and they're organizing a 3-day hackathon using CDSTK. So the whole day I was in another university building, working with other developers using this system. So I think they will be there tonight also, and tomorrow they'll finish their projects. And I'm really excited to see what they are going to make with our APIs. And I have a question, and I'll point to you with the, yeah.
Are they releasing in Istanbul API?
I'm sorry?
What What kind of projects do they do in Istanbul with this API?
Well, they just started working on that today, and tomorrow the results will be finished. I'm not sure. There's one group wanting to combine the public transport information with a list of events in the city of Istanbul, so that you can, if you want to go to a movie, you can see which buses or trams you can take to get there. There was another group trying to use GPS sensors of your phones to measure real-time traffic speeds, so they can predict and they can see where traffic jams are, and they want to feed all that data that they collect using their phones into City SDK. And then if it's in City SDK, it will automatically by default be open for everybody to use later.
But you know, schedule times would not be the same as in Europe, because we have...
I know what you mean. I think the city of Istanbul is also working on real-time public transport information. I think they have GPS sensors in all the buses, and there's lots of debate going on about making that open or not. But that's all political stuff. So yeah, you're right. The buses are all static data, and I've seen the buses here, and they usually don't run on time. Yeah, well, that's the next step then, I'm afraid. Any other questions? Yes, too. Yeah.
So this is a community or company?
No, it's a European research project. So this means those 8 different cities, and in all those cities, I think 2 or 3 organizations are working together for 3 years on making this, and this is just one part of it. So in the end, we are now trying to look into how to make it sustainable and maybe turning it into a company. No, this is all public, and it's all open source. It's all on GitHub, and we mean to keep it that way. And we are trying to now in the Netherlands try to find ways together, for example, with the city of Amsterdam, into developing this further, because this is just the first version that we made during the research, and now we want to make this work in a real city. So that's why we are talking to cities to.
Work in progress in Istanbul?
Yeah.
Are there a group of? Is there a community in Turkey? I know that there is a hackathon is going on. In part, is there a community?
I don't believe there is, but there should be. I think they're working. The municipality is working on making this sustainable also in Istanbul. I'm not sure how far they are, but I hope there will be developers that, well, first of all, that worked on this hackathon, and they will keep working on it. So.
And last question: who is responsible for updating the website of City SDK for Istanbul?
Well, usually in Amsterdam, the people that are the data owners are responsible. I think the city they are updating their data. Yes, yeah, yes, I think so. But I don't know the exact details. I don't know how often they update it.
So you have information about how things going on with Istanbul?
A bit, but all the things I know I heard today and yesterday, so I don't know everything about the political stuff and how that works. You had a question as well?
Yes. How much cooperation do you need from governments and municipalities? You know, when you began to integrate Istanbul, are they willing to integrate because they require some parts work to do it on their side as well, like using the CMS to provide?
Yeah.
How was that process? Was it easy or?
Well, I know that it was quite difficult in Istanbul to get, for example, the public transport data because what I've heard is that the city of Istanbul is sometimes a bit afraid of opening data, and it's the same actually in Amsterdam. The city of Amsterdam has so much data, but they don't want to give that completely open. And that the same is true here. I don't know the exact details of how it goes, but I know that it's a long process here and also in other cities to make all this data that is available also openly available. I'm sure, yeah. Well, also, of course, with opening data comes also responsibility, because you have to maintain it, you have to update it, you have to ask questions, you have to reply when somebody says something's incorrect. And I'm sure many organizations are really afraid of taking that step to opening the data, because they know how much effort it will in the end take to then maintain it and to give support also. So it's not free to open data, and I'm sure governments realize this, but they also should realize, the way I see it, that it's really valuable if you put money into it. But yeah, it's bureaucratic usually also, and they're afraid a bit. Yeah.
Because as you say, there are 8 cities and you need some level of data that needs to be provided. And Istanbul is a huge city actually, and transportation is not the same for each point.
Of course.
For some points it is, what can I say, it is more high. For some points it is not. Also we have different types of transportation. And if I could get some points for bus, also subway or some seaway.
Yeah.
And in which level you want to cover for some
Well, CSK does not impose one data model, or we don't say, well, this data should be in it and this data shouldn't. The way I see it is that the people responsible for the data can add all the data they want. So it's not that we decide which data is in it, but the yeah. I hope so, yeah. And this is only a first step, and we're not finished yet. So I hope it will continue, and that it will, in the end, be really useful for everybody in here and also in Amsterdam and other cities. Okay, I think that was it then. So thanks very much. Oh, there's another question. That's quite simple. You need a server and you need to set it up, and it's all in GitHub how you should do that. You need to have data, you need to have a server, and you need to follow our instructions, and then you can do it. You're welcome. Okay, thanks.